talking about what, the AI?
Yeah.
Well, how about you allow for me to be contentious as everybody else is on this app, and just allow for me to, stir the pot like I like to do on this app. Hold my foot to the fire for every fucking little thing to make me.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Bug doing a backpedal after he has Googled news and Trump. Thank you.
I mean, I got my own style. I don't follow everybody else's norm on this app. That's why I'm Bug Bully.
That's a fact.
You know what?
That's a fact.
This is a good day so far. I love it.
Let me say good morning to Aziz and then Bag. I think that this is going to give Bag. Hold on, I'm going to go to Aziz first. I'm going to come to you right after, I promise. I think this gives hope to the Iranian people for regime change. Aziz, good morning.
Morning, JB. Morning, everyone. Yeah, I was just watching the press conference, or whatever you want to call it, the interview with Trump before he got on the helicopter. And I think he's kind of I think the overarching theme is that obviously he's just come into power in his first year, and I think he hasn't managed to find his feet yet. You kind of get the impression that, especially with the language he's used, that he's being pulled in different directions that he doesn't want to go in. He mentioned specifically the news organizations. I think what he means by that is he's saying, well, we've supported Israel. It sounds like he's saying he supported them reluctantly, and despite that, he's being made fun of. And Trump with his ego and what he, knowing his character, that's his main priority. Don't make me look like the fool. And so when you see the language he's used at the end, he said, both of these countries don't know what the fuck they're doing, but you can hear that he was very critical of Israel. I think that's him alluding to Netanyahu, pulling him in directions he doesn't want to go in. I think we know his relationship with Netanyahu, and I think he's kind of implying, listen, I was happy to help reluctantly, but if this affects my tenure, the remaining 4 years, no, this isn't what I plan to do here. So you're not going to pull me and drag me around. And I think the same goes with Iran. I think he was almost excusing Iran, if you listen to it carefully, which is a bit strange. Maybe that's just him being clever, and because he's said certain things about Iran, then struck them the next day. So I'm very careful about what he says about Iran. I don't really believe him half the time. But when it comes to Israel, the posturing is unusual and quite negative. So that's my perception of what I've seen.
I kind of agree with that, because it also gives kind of a perception to believe that, Israel fooled an American president. And that could be also what Trump would be like. Whatever they talked about as far as the peace or the ceasefire was concerned, and now it looks as if, Trump was played, right? They used the American standard to, intervene and, call a ceasefire, but now he's pissed off, and I kind of agree with you, man. There's a negative connotation that comes along with what he's been saying, at least as far as towards Israel, because you probably feel like he got played.
Well, I think we don't know if he got played or not, but I think that he's pissed off because now his face will go on Mount Rushmore anymore. Good morning, Bag.
He played himself.
All right, water. Hold on, we're not doing conspiracy.
Relax. Don't get emotional.
JB.
Okay, hold on a second. Hold on. Here's emotional asshole. Go sit in the audience. Good morning, Bag.
Good morning, bro. I just want to say you got a cool ass chain. I ain't gonna lie to you. I want to ask you what kind of time that is.
What kind of link is it?
Yeah, if you don't mind DM.
It's I'll just tell you, it's a Tiger Eye.
You said it's a side guard.
Tiger Eye.
All the chain design.
Yeah, it's called Tiger Eye.
Oh, cool. I appreciate that.
Thank you for the compliment.
Do you want to know what aftershave he's wearing as well? Just that.
I just want to say, I want to go back to Aziz, because I 1000% agree with what you said. I feel like Israel going and, firing off the missiles, he knows that he's in the middle of trying to negotiate a ceasefire, and then he does that, and then you don't expect these people to fight back. It's crazy to me, and it's putting, Trump in a situation and he doesn't like it, and I don't like it for him. A lot of Americans don't like it for him. BB needs to chill for real. Somebody needs to really talk to him, and and that's the other part about it, because I feel like BB is like, listen, I'm at the brink of being able to make the changes that I need to make, but is that the right way that he's going about doing it? That's the real question. Is he really going the right way, or is there a right way? I don't know.
Well, I mean, the question sort of we need to be able to look at is an entire country, right? Because we're not talking about just Netanyahu. We're talking about a country with a government, with a series of cabinets that have basically been in the firing line from multiple dimensions, including not just Iran, but Iran's proxies. Do they need to kowtow to what Trump wants them to be able to do? And if so, why? They are a sovereign country. They have obviously received some assistance, from America in the form of Trump, in the form of dropping a series of bombs on nuclear targets, and that's what they've done. Tell me, should Israel be at the behest of Trump?
I think.
Is that a question? I'm sorry.
I think.
Absolutely, it's a question.
Well, I think Israel should. I'm sorry, Jay. I'll say good morning to you in a second. I think absolutely. I think Trump has just by him engaging in destroying the nuclear facilities. I think Israel should. And it's not anti-Israel. People's gonna go room saying JB said he's anti-Israel. I think Israel needs to stand down right now. I mean, the objective of this whole campaign was to destroy the nuclear facilities. Now they can't say that we've done it and then continue the engagement. Good morning, MJ.
Good morning. Yeah, I think the real nation that's in need of regime change is Israel. I think Benjamin Netanyahu and his right-wing Israelis, since their assassination of Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin 30 years ago this year, they have really kidnapped the Israeli government. They're not on any track for peace. This is the group that's in need to be supported for real regime change in Israel. That needs to be, instead of ridiculing people, real Israelis that wanted peace, right, through the Oslo Accords themselves. They've made it a reprehensible slur, referring to them as the Oslo people. I think, there just needs to be a reckoning with democracy in Israel, a removal of the fascist, non-democratic tactics and tendencies of Bibi Netanyahu and the radical Israeli right, and real change for Israel that's actually represented in views that are expressed by Israelis on the ground.
Is that how they win all the time?
Hang on for a second. No, wait a second. We're not going to do this. Okay, Marty, I get that you've got an alternate position on this, and I also have an alternate position on this, okay? When people come up on stage, it's not the indication that, anybody just gets off the mic and talk. We've got a one mic policy here, and it's for everybody concerned, okay? If you'd like to be able to respond, that's great. You put up your hand like everybody else, Marty, and it's really good to see you. Thanks, MJ. If you could land your plane pretty clear. It seems like you're going around in circles at the moment. It seems like you want to be able to say, take the focus off Iran as being a regime, an oppressive regime. Instead, you want to be able to focus on Israel being, the demon.
An oppressive regime.
Oh, interesting.
Wait, let him land. Then I have a question for you, MJ. Please land.
Yeah, an oppressive apartheid regime. That's exactly what I'm saying. Israel is an oppressive apartheid regime under Benjamin Netanyahu, and there needs to be real regime change. I think there is more likely to be more change in Israel, right, given a change away from the radical right, than regime change in Iran. I don't think regime change in Iran, at least democratic regime change in Iran, will ultimately result in something as different as it would be if there was regime change in Israel.
Got it. Okay, we got the message. You were literally going around in circles. Okay, can I ask what country you're in?
Well, I'm in the United States of America. So.
Okay. Are you a patriotic person?
No, I'm Afrocentric.
Okay.
Ew.
Okay. Whatever that means, I don't know. Marty, welcome to the stage.
Wait, before we go to Marty, I have one question for MJ.
Yeah, go for it.
MJ, first of all, good morning. So let me ask you, I've heard this narrative a million times that Netanyahu is continuing these conflicts, whether it's Gaza, now Iran, just to stay in power because he has all these legal issues outside of his office. Are you one of those people that believe that?
Well, yeah, I think that perpetuating war is always a way in which you can galvanize people, sway politics in their favor. That's nothing new to European, Western history, right? So, yeah, I think that's a part of his plan.
But wasn't he I'm sorry, I'll give it to you right now. But wasn't he democratically elected?
Sure.
Well, so the people put him in. Go ahead,
Yeah, okay. MJ, I'm curious, have you ever been to Israel?
No, I would never.
No, you would never. Okay, interesting. You understand that we have a democracy in place, or a type of democracy in Israel?
Sure.
Yeah. Are you aware that out of any other state or country in the entire region, Israel has better human rights than any other entity in the region?
According to who? Human rights according to what? I don't agree. I don't think any other nation in the region is doing what Israel is doing in the children and women.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Look, you obviously.
I don't know what basis you have to say.
Hang on for a second. That's great. We'll have the conversation. That's perfectly fine. You are either incredibly misinformed, incredibly biased, or incredibly stupid, or a combination of maybe.
Which other nation is killing more women and children than Israel?
Let me see. Congo. That would
No,
be
in
one.
the region, sir. In the region.
Hang on.
Wait,
Wait a
region,
second,
sir.
dude. Hang on.
Don't go out of the region.
I'll tell you
Go
why.
all the way to Congo?
Okay. Hang on. If you go off mute again, you're going to go down to the audience. It's not because of your opinion. It's just that we want to have a conversation and dialogue. It's pretty fucking simple. Okay, you ask me a question, I'm going to answer it. Let's say, the Assad regime, 600,000 people were butchered and slaughtered to death.
800,000.
800,000. There's 860,000 people who have been murdered in the Congo. 500,000 people in Yemen. Literally, it's the worst devastation in Yemen right now. You want to be able to demonize
That was in
Israel.
2018 reading. It's now 750,000 people in Yemen.
There you go. But Marty, thanks so much for your patience. I ask that you take a deep breath and have a measured conversation with MJ if you'd like to. Marty?
Good morning, guys. He was just repeating himself, so I felt like we heard what he had to say. It wasn't anything actually fruitful because he lives in a country where he doesn't want to do change, because in reality he's talking about a different country which electedly voted for the person who's in power and elected it, and these are what it is, a democracy. But he wants to talk about places that will never visit because one, will never be allowed in. These are the types of things that people have opinions. Good for you. Your opinion's worth the same dollar value that someone's actually offering it to you, and as we all know, it's worth shit because nobody's paying you for it. And these are the types of people who just regurgitate these false accusations where the people in Israel voted for their government the same way Americans voted for their government, the same way other countries vote for their government. It's not this coup d'etat to stay in power, because the people themselves will continue to put Bibi into power, because in reality, Bibi's missions and Bibi's goals isn't like the Trump flip-flopper as we see. He's actually achieving his goals. Iran nuclear, his campaign promise from the 90s to the early 2000s was Iran will not have nukes, as we continuously see Israel continuously sabotage their nuclear facilities for the last 30 years. and then he said, I'm going to make Israel safe. And as we continuously see the suicide bombing that we're so used to with the second Intifada, that it has completely stopped, and this is not the way of life of Israelis. And the third thing was that he just came promises from the 90s, I'm going to make Israel into a powerhouse where they're going to be advanced in technology, advanced in many different fields, pharmaceuticals. And these are the types of things that Bibi achieved, whereas where he stands, he thinks it's a regime, but regimes are not voted in. Regimes stay in power through force. Nobody died because they were going against Bibi. These are the types of people. If you really think that you're going to stop the problem, Yitzhak Rabin wasn't killed way before Bibi came to power. Bibi was not elected after Rabin. So again, you're just regurgitating things that one was actually stunned by the government and the country which said assassination of Yitzhak Rabin was wrong, and at the same time it was not a result of Bibi, which you completely flip-flop conversations, completely flip-flop facts, because in reality you don't know the facts. You don't even love the country you live in. So if you really had a fight to fight your own fight in your own country, because in reality your country is going to shit.
Let's land it. Thanks, Marty.
I just want to say Brooklyn love to Marty. Go ahead.
NJ, not so great.
Let me ask Marty a question real quick. So Marty, what you just said about what Netanyahu wasn't doing, what do you think about Menachem Begin?
What about Menachem Begin? Menachem Begin united the Middle Eastern Jews to what was like more European centric. They said Mizrahi Jews are part of the nation, and he worked his ass off to make a unity between the two people who came from different backgrounds, different identical political beliefs, and just like cultures, and he combined them. That's what I think of Menachem Begin.
So can you tell me why he was released from the USSR as a war criminal before he created the IDF and began the onslaught against Palestinians?
Menachem Begin was, you said what? He's the USSR? Who gives a shit? The USSR says they were the communists, they were the dictators who suppressed and threw Jews in gulags. For them to say that somebody else is bad, go fuck themselves. Nobody really cares because they're old and they don't actually exist anymore.
Interesting.
And the Jews fighting for their, like, the uprising in the Holocaust is not compared to anything considering terrorism, because we only targeted Nazi generals or a British military of occupying our land.
If I could just say one thing as well, MJ was critical of Netanyahu. I don't think a good rebuttal is to mention the Israel as a country, their approach to human rights. I don't think Netanyahu is responsible for, creating those laws and legislation. Netanyahu has a different role in the government. I don't think that's a good rebuttal. They're completely separate. Israel's morals and ethics and human rights policy kind of remains regardless of who's in power. Being critical of Netanyahu is not being critical of the Israeli people or the country itself. This is, these are kind of easy. It's a cheap tactic to simply bring in other elements when you're simply just criticizing Netanyahu, and that's just what it is. And to name the unstable regional states that surround Israel, I mean, they're not exactly the pillars of hope, right? So I don't think they're good examples as reference points to say, well, look what happens in Syria. So I think, Israel is a nation that is considered a democracy, and it should be acting accordingly. So I believe Netanyahu has things that he needs to account for. Personally.
Thank you.
And that has nothing to do.
Thank you, Aziz. Let me do a quick reset before we go to the next speaker. Guys, this is healthy debate. Trump says Israel and Iran don't know what the fuck they're doing. So it looks like the great peace that he promised, that he said he delivered, was just really another false flag. I have a question for the room. Guys, if you want to come up on stage, by all means, please come up. If you have a pink ticket, cash it in. The question I have for the room is, guys, let me finish my reset, please. Kel, mute up. I don't understand when people hear me talking, they think it's okay just to jump the fuck in when I'm doing a reset. It's so frustrating. Anyway, good morning, Kenyatta. Good morning, Dee. Good morning, Debbie. Miss Clark, you're welcome to the stage. Even though I don't agree with what you wrote. V-Berg, Opie, good to see you. Like I said, have a pink ticket, cash it in, guys. Today's special raffle prize is all expense dinner with Rohan. So we're going to go to the next speaker, which is my man, Randy. Randy, good morning.
Hi, JB. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I had to speak up after the last speaker. Netanyahu is for some reason, people have decided to demonize Netanyahu, and I'm going to explain why. Because he is a strong, persuasive speaker who is as smart as anybody else in the room and very good communicator. And a long time ago, certain people decided that they had a vision of how the whole Middle East is going to be resolved. And they see Netanyahu as the man standing in their way. So they've decided to take him down. And I'll go real specific. If all you knew about Netanyahu was what you read in the New York Times, which is basically an organ of the Democratic Party, if that's all you knew about Netanyahu, you would think he's a chump and a jerk and corrupt too. But instead, we've seen a guy who's been consistently elected. There are no term limits over there. So he's been elected. He's been prime minister for a long time. But he is elected. And he has vanquished his enemies. And he said a long time ago, he said a doctrine. It's a doctrine that goes all the way back to Menachem Begin, which is Israel's Arab neighbors. Israel's neighbors cannot have a nuclear weapons program because Israel is outnumbered by about 1,000 to 1 land mass and population-wise. If they don't have a deterrent, then, they're fucked. So that's a doctrine that they've held in place. They bombed a nuclear reactor in Syria. They bombed a nuclear reactor in Iraq. And for 20 years, he has dedicated himself very clearly to the statement that Iran will not have a nuclear weapons. Now, there were many people who stood in his way. Obama called him chicken shit, if you can remember that in the Atlantic magazine. Said Bibi's chicken shit. He didn't have the right weapons, he didn't have the right technology, but he worked on the project for 20 years. And we have to give him credit for what he's done. I think he's one of the great statesmen. I'm sorry, I know I said a lot, and I'm here, and I'm here for the whole conversation.
Thank you, Randy. So the question I have for the room is this. Thank you, Randy. I need you to meet up as you get feedback. Thank you. So the question I have for the room is, does this instill hope again for a regime change in Iran? I have to tell you, man, I can only imagine what's going on with our Persian friends, our Iranian friends, right? Our Kurdish friends. This roller coaster ride of the last 2 weeks has to be so stressful for them. But I saw Keegan had his hand raised, and I'm going to go to Deo. Good morning, Keegan.
Yeah, this is what I think. And I think that whether or not Israel wants to do a regime change in Iran, that's fine. But I think that Trump is a narcissist. He has a large ego. When you hurt that ego, he's willing to cut ties. And I think that he's very upset with Israel and Iran, of course, but with Israel because they're the allies here. That when he writes up a peace treaty of a ceasefire, and he feels like Israel's broken it, whether or not they were the first ones to break it, he believes they were, or at least he believes that they have some type of causation for this. So I think that I think the United States, we might cut off Israel, and I think that's a good thing. Cutting off the branch that's dying. So
there's zero chance Donald Trump cuts off Israel. Well, let me say good morning to Dale. Good morning, Dale.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. The thing about the Benjamin Netanyahu thing is that I can understand how some people may have a strong support for him, particularly given the fact that he's the longest serving prime minister, and obviously there's clearly support for him because he keeps getting voted to be reelected and stuff like that. One thing I do think that is a fair thing is to critique him. Like, again, at the end of the day, he is a statesman, and you are allowed to critique a statesman the same way we're allowed to critique Trump. I can critique Trump right now, and doesn't mean I'm like anti-American or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So critiquing the statesman is not necessarily an indication of how you feel about that specific country. And then in particular to that, this statesman that we're critiquing has an arrest warrant for genocide with the ICC. So I think that part is just completely just put under the rug as if like it just never happened. That the arrest warrant for him is an important indication of as to like how someone and other people are right to feel about him in regards to some of the criminality and the genocide.
Yeah, I'd like to respond because unprecedented.
Randy.
And they defend themselves.
Randy, I know you hear me. You have no mic. And I would have given you the opportunity to push back. So have some respect to the other speakers. Okay, Dale.
Okay, so yeah, moving on from Netanyahu, what I really wanted to come here and talk about was what we're seeing now going on right now currently in regards to like U.S., Israel, and Iran and this whole ceasefire situation. I'm curious to try to. I think we kind of like talked about it a little bit, but I'm curious to see what the room's thoughts and temperature is between Bibi's relationship and Trump's relationship. I think that like we started to talk about how it seems like they're on like eggshells right now. And for me, I know the media is gonna like point it and say like, Trump told Iran and Israel to like what the fuck are y'all doing? But if you actually listen to the full recording of what Trump was saying and everything like that, he was more aghast with Israel than anything else. He seemed to be more critical of Israel than Iran. And I think that deserves a conversation, because if you're going to say that we are...
Land your plane, sir.
Well, I'm about to land it. So if you're about to say that we being critical of Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu isn't an indication of anything else, we just heard Trump being super critical for the first time.
You said that 5 times. We get it. Trump criticized Netanyahu. Criticized Israel.
So,
we get it.
So what do we think about Trump's criticization of Israel?
I'm going to hand it to Rohan and then get Randy back in the conversation. Rohan, you want to?
Yeah, cool. Look, I think that's a fair assessment. Based on what I saw, 100%. And like it got me thinking as well as to why that would be the case. And look, maybe there is some friction between Trump and Netanyahu. That is a possibility. There have been times in the past where they haven't seen eye to eye. But at the same time, I think that, look, I mean, you've got 2 egos there. There's a possibility that the 2 egos, could potentially be butting heads with each other. They might have conflicting ideas of what the outcome should be. And that'll
boring.
I moved him. Go ahead.
Can I go, Bibi?
No, just hang on for a second. I haven't finished. The other thing to take into consideration is that it wasn't too long ago we saw that there was a ruse, I guess. There was a situation where, I can't remember exactly what the date or the conversation was about, but there was a perceived disagreement between, and also some heat and some friction between the 2 people. Yet, when it came to making a joint announcement, they both had adulation for